What is up, everybody? Josh Tapp here again, and welcome back to the Lucky Titan podcast. And today we're here with Robert Wright. I am so excited to have him here today. Robert is an executive coach and a transformational architect. And honestly, his career just precedes him. I mean, this guy has worked with some of the top names in the world, like LifeSpring, Arc International, some of these big companies that, people really, we know the names. A lot of times we don't even know what they do, but the reason they're so successful is because people like Robert come in and help them. And one of the main reasons I wanted to bring Robert in today is he has built multiple very, very successful companies in the coaching and training arena, which for most of you listening, that's really one of the big industries of people who listen to the show and watch these interviews. And so I'd really like to have you say what's up to everybody, Robert, first off, and then we'll kind of hop in here and get going.
I'm delighted to be with you. And, your audience are my favorite people, of course. So
we're the world's favorite.
We are brothers. We are brothers and sisters in the struggle and in the wins.
I love it. It's fun. It's fun to talk to people like you because you understand the real struggles of being a coach. And some people think it's just in the financial side, but a lot of it is overcoming mental barriers. I feel like is 90% of the work as a coach. And that's really kind of been your area of expertise, is helping these executives with massive companies to break barriers in their company and see big transformational change. So I want to get into that topic, but I want to first ask you, if you were to start another consulting company, starting over from scratch, or coaching or training company, if you were to start over from scratch, how would you build it? Like to start, would you go reach out to past clients? What would you do as far as building your next company? I'm just kind of curious.
Well, it may sound counterintuitive to many people because the emphasis is usually on the product or the service. That's what we pay attention to. We're proud of. We're excited about. We got excited about it. We want to share it with others. That's pretty normal, and certainly has been true in my case. If I had to do it all over again, if I put myself in the place of people that are starting up and want to go beyond just a lone ranger, individual contributor kind of role, really want to build a company, I'd pay a lot of attention to three things: to focus, to alignment, and to commitment. Those are the things that I've found have hurt me in the past when I skipped over them, and that have empowered me in building, my last company, Arc International, had 240 people active in 7 countries and 70 full-time trainers and 15 offices. So, but it all started out in, me and my individual practice. And so I think that those three things: focus, is everybody on the same page? Are we really up to the same thing here? Alignment, and the question, of course, there is alignment to what? What are we aligning to? And then finally, do we have a shared commitment here? Is every single person we bring in having same or very close to the same commitment that the owner, the entrepreneur has? And absent attention to those three things, I think it's extremely difficult to grow a company. You can still be a superstar, a writer, a teacher, a coach, a trainer, a group leader, whatever. But if you want to attract people around you, which is the only way to build that kind of company, you'd better be clear about what we're up to, what the focus is today, this week, this 90-day period, this year. What are we really up to? And then secondly, alignment. And alignment is the one that's the most simple and the most difficult, frankly.
Well, and alignment is such an interesting topic because, and I love how you articulated it when we were first talking in the pre-interview. You have to align to something. And I think everybody just throws these terms around. Oh, we need alignment. Alignment. Like, I think people confuse congruency with alignment. And so my curiosity for you is, how do you decide and determine what to align to?
It's the heart of both my coaching with executives and entrepreneurs, and it's the heart of our trainings, even though the methodology for those two are different. with groups versus individual. What we've discovered is that the key areas to align are, first of all, your purpose. What is unique about you personally and the organization you're building? What is it that you can do better than anybody else, or that causes you to get lit up? It's just so exciting you can't sleep. You gotta get up and do it. Purpose is one of those simple but not easy things, and also it is, in my experience, a moving target. The purpose that I had when I started out was so simple, and it served me well, and it also limited me, because my purpose was a negative one. I will never be poor again. I grew up in poverty. I know what that's like. I know the shaming and embarrassment that comes with. I mean, I literally wore shirts to school that were made by my mother from feed sacks. That kind of, and we lived on the wrong side of the tracks. And we didn't go on the school trips because there wasn't that fee that you always have to pay. And all of these things add up to blame and shame and guilt and all that stuff. That's not very positive. But that purpose of never being poor again motivated me. That's the positive side of it. Now, it also does not include joy and satisfaction as a result. I mean, I retired to Aspen at 46 with a 15,000 square foot home and a 76 acres right outside of Aspen, Colorado, and my own jet and, all of that stuff. So it worked, but no joy and satisfaction. So my next level of purpose was one that was not negative in a way, but it wasn't much of a contribution. And that was being a rich guy in Aspen. Going to the right parties, being on the right nonprofit boards, traveling to 40 countries, all of that kind of stuff. And
sorry to interrupt you, but did you just feel like you didn't fit in those groups because of?
No, never.
I've experienced the same thing. You go to those things and you're like,
No, I was still the guy. I was still the poor kid who had one semester of college and made it on my own. I was actually talking with a very rich guy in Aspen once, and he asked me what I did, and I said, well, I founded and led these two training companies. And there was this long silence, and then he said, yeah, but how did you afford that house? And I said, from founding and leading those training companies, I made a lot of money. And he just couldn't get it, but I was still the poor kid not fitting in. And my book, Living an Extraordinary Life, is not about me. A lot of people have asked about that. I read your book, I love your book, but it's not about you. And I go, no, it's about our graduates and their interaction with our material. And that's how it became a bestseller. If it was about me, I don't think it would have, beyond my family, I don't think it would sell that well. But one chapter of the book is about me. And it doesn't say that in the book. But the chapter is that it's about what I believe to be the world's most limiting belief. And our beliefs govern everything. That for me, for you, for our listeners, everybody, we have a set of beliefs, and we adopt them because they work for us at some point in our life. And then we defend them. We go looking for why we're right about that belief. But sometimes they're limiting. And the most common limiting belief is, I am not enough. I'm not enough. I don't have enough education. I don't have the right background. I don't know the right people. I don't have the right network. I'm not smart enough. I'm not disciplined enough. Limiting beliefs. The biggest one is, I'm not enough. And getting that you are enough is a freeing experience, but that's kind of going into the personal growth side of things. But for alignment, that thing that you need to be aligned to is the sense of purpose. Why are we doing this? What's our vision? What's something that's so big? And we're not talking about goals. I think there's a lot of confusion in the distinction between mission and vision and goals. Your vision is that biggest picture you can imagine of contributing into and creating. I have a vision of one world, one people. In my lifetime, I will not create it, but I can contribute toward it in the work that I do and the way I live my life. But does the group have a vision? People do not work for money. I mean, the research is overpowering. People work for a cause. You can see that throughout history, what people will do for a cause. Look, that movie Braveheart is not so popular. I mean, I know people and my clients that watch it every year. Every year, they've seen it 10 times. They can quote from it. It's amazing. People that you can never imagine quoting from a movie can quote from Braveheart. And there's a couple of other movies like that, right? And songs. I mean, I have a song that has moved me in my life at various points in my life. And I can sing it badly, but I can sing it.
I won't make you sing it here, but I was really tempted.
Thank you. I know. Thank you very much. That's the way guys relate, actually, is by putting each other in embarrassing situations. So, what's that vision? What is it? And is it compelling? Does it draw other people in? And can they adopt it as part of the organizational vision? And finally, values. What do we stand for? And none of this virtue signaling, culturally popular, politically correct stuff. What is it we really put a stake in the ground about? A friend of mine that I met in a training, I've been to over 50 outside trainings, people, things outside my company, partially for me. I try to do at least one per year. And then for industry knowledge, certainly. And for theft, basically, see if I can find one good idea here that I can use and fit into what I do. But in one of them, I met a guy named Matt Molich. He had been educated as an attorney. His father died suddenly, kind of younger, and he ends up running this trucking company. And he took it from $8 million a year in revenue to $85 million in revenue in 5 years. It's like unheard of growth. And part of their deal was that they specialized in just one thing, which was moving rock and roll shows, Broadway musicals, trade shows. So like a specialty hauling business. If you're hauling iPhones and you're 3 days late, so what? It's not good, but so what? Everybody's going to adjust to that. If you're hauling all of the instruments for a rock and roll show and you're even 1 day late, you're in big trouble. So his deal was, it's kind of like the FedEx deal, we'll absolutely get you there on time. And one of his drivers one day was driving through the American West and his truck blew up. And he was going to Las Vegas for some show and they couldn't find the parts locally. They had to be flown in. So he would have missed the show, the beginning of the show. He stole a truck from a truck stop. He stole the motor end of things, right? For a semi. They leave them running at truck stops. And he stole the truck and unhooked and hooked up his trailer, went to Las Vegas, made his delivery on time, drove to the police station and turned himself in. And when he got in front of the judge says, "Why did you do this? And then you turn yourself in?" He said, "Because I made a commitment. Our values are that we keep our promises no matter what. So put me in jail, fine me, do whatever you're going to do." The judge busted out laughing. He had never seen anything like this. And he did find the company and there's a bunch of expenses involved in it. They had to pay that. Not 1 day in jail because the judge was inspired by the level of commitment. What are your values and do you live them? So that's what you need to align to if you're going to build an organization. You need to find others and do the work of getting them aligned around your purpose, your vision, and values, which means you have to do the underlying work to find out what are your purposes, your purpose, your vision, and your values, which is, The next question is, well, how do you do that? And that's like asking a barber if you need a haircut.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you to hire me or somebody like me.
Yeah,
I'm going to tell you to spend the money to put all your people in a room for a few days and do the hard work. It's simple. It's just not easy because you're busting through all of the beliefs that everybody has that are all over the map about what work is about what how you should be rewarded, about how you should be acknowledged. We all have different beliefs. I mean, there are people that say, what I want at work is to be left alone so I can do my work. Somebody else says, I need a lot of approval. I need a lot of appreciation. Somebody else, just tell me what to do. Those are different belief systems. You've got to sort all that out and get everybody aligned. Otherwise, you spend 80% of your time dealing with people issues. All the studies are pretty consistent about that. And only 20% on running your business. That increases the level of difficulty and the chance of failure to about 1,000%.
Yeah. And I, like you said, there's kind of like an obvious next question of how do you do that? But I really love that you've articulated that, because when it comes down to the mission, the values, the purpose, I remember studying this in college. We read Jack Welch's Winning. He talks about that very heavily. And
yes.
it really, it's one of those things that I don't think you can do on your own. It requires somebody with an outside perspective to kind of direct the conversation and really help you kind of articulate that for yourself. Because one of the things that stood out to me as I was studying that is that your mission and your values aren't, they're not something that you can guess. They're something that you live. It's something that you're already living.
Yep.
So many people, when they put their missions and values, they're like, well, this is, in an ideal world, this is what we would like to do. But it's really more about like, who are you? What are you currently doing? And how do you align everything with those? So I thought that was, you sparked that thought in my head. I had forgotten about that until you mentioned that. So
look, there's an app, there's an app for creating purpose, vision, values. There's an app. And you just plug in words. And then when you read it back, you go, this is like oatmeal. This has no depth to it at all. Maybe it's aspirational, but it's not real.
right.
And look, if you've got a lot of, we joked about that little video with the woman with the nail in her head, and saying it's not the nail, If you had a brain tumor, would you heal it yourself? Of course, the answer is no. You'd find somebody with an expertise in that area. I have used in building my own company, I've used a lot of outside experts on experiential learning, on neuro-linguistic programming, contributed a lot to our work with groups. We've hired all kinds of experts. And then of course, I have 3 personal coaches. I have one for personally, I have one for marketing. So you can pitch me later. And I have one for nutrition and physical health. So, because I don't tend to change very easily. And it helps to have an accountability partner. It helps to have somebody that knows more than I know. It helps to have people that hold up the mirror to me about my stuff. Because I've been in some ways hugely successful. I've been a spectacular failure. I fired 240 people and closed 15 offices. I've done that, a very public failure. It's also where I learned the most, right? And got some humility, which was not something I was particularly studying at the time, until that time.
And I love that you mentioned that, because I think most people are assuming, oh, I need a coach when I'm wealthy. Once I have the money, I can afford a coach. But what's really interesting, I even know in our own business, we couldn't break barriers in our business where I could even bring home an income until I hired a coach. And it's because they can look at your specific situation, where with you, I love you said a nutrition coach, right? They're going to look at where you're at, and they're not going to compare you against anybody else. They're going to say,
Right.
this is you, based off of you, everything that you are and where you're currently at, this is what you should do. You're not going to get that by buying a course or doing a YouTube binge. You know, you're not going to figure it out without hiring somebody to specifically be there with you. So that does kind of lead me to
when I sat down with the nutrition coach, I gave him my story, you know, which was keeping me stuck where I was in terms of my physicality. And he listened kind of politely for a while. He said, well, excuse me. He said, do you have a half an hour? I said, yes. He said, good. Let's go to your house. I want to look in your refrigerator. Ooh, that was a bad day. You know, my story got exploded.
Yeah,
by the
like
reality
beer,
of what
donuts
happened.
And chicken. Come on.
So yeah, and that's what a good coach does. You know, I have a great coach story. I know we're getting near the end here, but there's a very famous woman in China. I spent the last 5.5 years there, named Li Nan, and she's on these big billboards. She's quite attractive, but there's a lot of attractive women in China. Why her? And because she's all over the place. Well, Li Nan was a professional tennis player, and she got to being about number 100 in the world. If you're number 100 in the world, you are not traveling with an assistant and an aide and a coach, and you're not staying in 5-star hotels. You're flying coach. You're carrying your own bags. You're living with some other tennis player when you can to save money, and you're working your butt off and you're fighting. And she couldn't take it anymore, and she quit. And 2 years later, and you know, you quit at that level for 30 days, it's over for you. 2 years later, there was a big tournament in Shanghai, which is where she lives. And some other tennis players went to her home and confronted her and said, you could be great, but you're not well coached. And she and her family, they sold things. They sold the car, they sold a lot of things to raise enough money. And Li Nan is now the only Chinese woman to win a major tournament. And she won a bunch of them. She became in the top 5 in the world. And she blew up her knee and had to retire. Fortunately, she retires as the most famous woman in China. 1.3 billion people. Everybody knows her name. What they don't know is that how she became successful was that she left the government program for athletes. She hired a nutritionist, a stretching, physical fitness person, a strength coach, a sports psychologist. She had 5 coaches. She went from number 100 to number 5 in the world and won a major. There's a lesson in that. I mean, if you want to win big, if you want to go Olympic class in what you're doing, find someone else that's done it. Hire them. Sell your car. You know, but again, that's like asking the barber if you need a haircut.
Yeah.
Of course I'm going to say that.
I'm going to ask the barber here, though. So that is my next question for you is, you know, obviously this is something you do professionally. You've been doing it for a very long time, helping a lot of people. So how can people get in contact with you and learn more about how they can work with you in particular?
Well, first of all, I'm not the only good coach in the world. There are a lot of them, and people might know who they are and just not be stepping up to hiring them. So speaking for the whole industry, it's time for action. If I'm somebody that you resonate with and you think I can help you do what you want to do, it's the best way is robert@extraordinarypeople.com. Just email me. We'll set up a free 30-minute call and I'll ask you to bring an issue. You know, it's not to talk about me. It's to talk about something that's important to you, that's got you stuck, that's keeping you awake at night, that is a reoccurring issue, particularly, or a pattern. You can see the pattern. You can see how you get in trouble, how you stop yourself. Most people have a lot more wisdom than they give themselves credit for in that arena. And so I have some understanding of what stops you. Maybe that's something I can do better than you can do for yourself. I can be that mirror, and that mirror won't be clouded the way we tend to cloud our mirrors. It'll be a pretty sharp mirror. So Robert at extraordinarypeople.com. If you want to just connect for now and think about it for a while, go on extraordinarypeople.com, sign up for my e-zine. I publish one every week. It's called an Extraordinary Minute because it can be read in 1 minute or less. An idea, something to move you along the journey. I always encourage people to buy my book. I feel like one of those guys on the street selling bananas. Buy my book.
Watches, right?
Yeah, watches. Yeah. So anyway, get connected. I mean, that's what my life is about, is meeting people that are up to something. I am not a life coach. I'm not, you're having trouble with your marriage, go talk to someone else. I've been horrible at marriage. How could I ever be a coach? But I know something about building a company, and I know something about the blocks and barriers that get in the way personally for you and your team in building a company. That's the area where I'm not a guy in a diner. You know that story about the diner?
I do not know.
The guy that, this is a great story. You go out drinking and it's late, but you're hungry, you're younger, you're hungry. You go to the diner, you sit at the counter, and next to you is a guy that knows everything about everything. He's a guy in the diner. You want to talk politics? He knows everything. You want to talk sports? Yeah, he can dissect your team. He's usually a mile wide and an inch deep.
Right.
He doesn't know everything about everything, but he talks like he does. And he's very confident. About most of life, I'm a guy in a diner. But I do know something about the human condition and what empowers you and what stops you and how to move through that. So if somebody wants to check me out, book me for a half an hour and see what happens.
I love it. Make sure you go check that out. So it's Robert at extraordinarypeople.com. Is that correct?
Correct.
Perfect. So make sure you go check that out. You can obviously email him, or you can check out the website as well. But Robert, before we sign off today, I want to ask you one final question. So if you were to leave one final parting piece of guidance with our audience, what would that be?
The clock is ticking. The clock is ticking. You don't get time back. While you're hesitating, while you're considering, while you're analyzing, while you're evaluating, while you're judging, that all takes time. And things are moving too fast. It's time to act. The best book on entrepreneurship that I know of is Charlie Kiefer and Len Schlesinger's book, Just Start. The clock's ticking. Get out of the analysis paralysis, get into testing by doing it, seeing and getting feedback. Entrepreneurs are nothing if not adaptable, successful ones. And you only find out what you need to adapt by doing it. What worked, what didn't work. It's not complicated. It's painful, but it's not complicated. And again, it's that line from my book. It's simple, it's not easy. If it was easy, everybody would do it. Come on, you are enough. So just start, act. The clock is ticking.